Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is A Little Bit Gorgeous and I'm Jennifer. I've been making these little folios because I'm addicted to making these little folios, and somebody asked me if I could show how to make them, so I thought I would do that. So this is one that I have already finished, and you can see that it's made up in a number of layers. It has an envelope or a pocket on the front, a little tuck on the side that you can put something in. This page here has a pocket, but it could just as equally be on that side there for ephemera. Pocket in the top, you could put a journal card in. Pocket on the side here, and then another little tuck on there. And then in the back, there's another pocket. That you could put some paper in. So altogether there's 7 pockets in there, which gives you lots of space to put things in. Take that out. So that's what it looks like. So what you would need are 2 pieces of paper, the same size. So these are the ones that I'm going to be using. I use A4 paper and I don't print borderless, so I've cut the edges off, and that gives me a strip that's 11.5 inches long, which is about 29 centimeters. And then you just need to make it as high as you like. I make it 6 inches because I think that's a fairly good measurement. And you need 2, and they do need to be double-sided. They don't have to have the same pattern on the back, but they do need to be double-sided because you'll be seeing both sides of both pieces. So those will be our base. There's a pocket that will go on the front, an envelope, and then there'll be a couple of little pieces for tucks and pockets as we go on. So that's all you need to make the base. When I make this, because I figure it's a little bit vulnerable there, so I have actually folded those 2 edges over just to reinforce them, and I have also folded this top part of the tuck over as well to reinforce it. That's not really necessary, but it's what I like to do. So of your 2 pieces, you'll need to decide which piece you want to be on the front. These 2 sheets of paper will make 3 layers. Generally, I would make a pattern for the front, something that's a little bit more perhaps geometric, less fussy in the middle, and then another pattern on the back. Just so you've got something in the middle there to break up those 2 designs. This one here, I have already started, and you can see what I've done there. Pattern on the front, something that sort of ties the 2 together, another pattern on the back. When we put our base pieces together, this is what it will look like. Goes out there and that goes out there. And once again, I've folded, you can just see in there, I have folded both of those 2 sides over to reinforce the edges. So let's go. I'll put all of the measurements in the description, but as I said, really you work with what you've got, whatever height you like, and pretty much the width of your piece of paper. You might just need to adjust some of the folds to make it fit, but that's not difficult to do. So when I make this one, I am going to have that as the back. This will go on the front, I think. No. That's the way it goes. So it's a little bit counterintuitive because the piece that's going to form the back is actually the top piece of paper. So this is the way I'm going to do it. So I've folded my 2 edges over, but I haven't glued them down yet. So I'll just do that. This is 120 GSM paper. For those of you who might be using paper in pounds, I'm not entirely sure how that translates, but 120 GSM is 1.5 times the weight of standard photocopy paper, if that makes sense. So standard photocopy paper is 80 GSM and I'm using 120. If you were using scrapbook paper or paper that was thicker, you probably wouldn't need to reinforce these edges because they'd be strong enough on their own, but I do. Find my glue back in. So when I make, here are my 2 pieces of paper. When I make it, I make this back piece about 4¼ inches. I've got my centimetre map here, so I can't remember what 4¼ inches is in centimetres. 10, 11 centimetres maybe. So the piece that will form the top of the back, I will fold at 11 centimetres. There. Fold it back on itself. And then I'm going to just at this point just glue my back together. This will be the opening, so it's going to be glued here and here and here. Just a little bit down the spine. And then I want to line these 2 pieces up right on top of each other. At some point, you might hear some dog barking. So be prepared for that because I think it's going to happen. All right, let me just get my pieces of paper together again. And now I will fold this back piece. Oh, actually what I'll do first, I will also fold over this edge to reinforce it so I don't forget to do it later. Okay, so if I fold that back piece over and then I fold this one over so it is creased along that same line. Make sure my edges line up and score it down. And they don't line up, so let's make them line up. So I have 2 folds like this. This one at the back will fold back on itself and it forms this flap here. So it just gets folded in half and back on itself. It will be glued across the top and the bottom so that the opening is in there. This will be our middle flap and it comes back the other way. But what I want is to have these 3 layers staggered. So you can see that the back one is about 4 1/4. The front one is about 3-ish. Where is it? 3 1/4. But it doesn't really matter how big that actually is. This one, I want to be folded halfway between the two. So if I lie that down on my mat, fold this one back on it, I can see where this one ends, and I'll bring this one out just a little bit and fold it down that way. So it will give us 3 layers. Now, because of those dimensions, when you fold this one back on itself, it doesn't go all the way to the fold, but that's all right because we're going to cover that up. So I have another piece that is the same height as my folder and maybe 1.5 inches, perhaps 2 inches. It will sit over the top there, which will form this little tuck in here. When I glue it down there, it will seal that flappy edge and it will make an opening in the top. So at this point, I might just edge that a little. I've already inked the edges of these pieces just to save a little bit of time, but that's something that you don't need to do. But I do like to use these gold pastes because I just like a little bit of gold. It does mean that you get gold finger, but I can live with that. So at this point here, I'm going to glue these two pieces together, but I don't want to seal this flap down just yet. So we'll need a little bit of glue there, and there, and there, and there. Which completes that opening. The reason that I don't want to seal that down yet is because I'm going to put a pocket in here. And I might put a pocket there, I might put a pocket there. What I usually would do, if I can just find something quickly, is to make that a lace pocket. Which I'd sit over there. And whether I put it there or whether I put it there depends on what I want to cover or don't want to cover. If I put a lace pocket on there, I'm not entirely comfortable with the idea of just gluing it down, so I would stitch it as well. If I'm going to stitch it, I don't want that to be sealed because then I can't get the machine through. So I would leave that open, stitch it on. Stitching will be on this side where you can't see it, and then I would seal that flap down. So that needs a bit of decision making, but I'm not going to use a lace pocket for this one here. What I will do is to create a little pocket to go on here. Sometimes I would use a tag, sometimes it'll just be a piece of embossed paper. This is just another of the pieces from this Chapter One kit. This is French florals that I've used for most of this. So I'm just going to use this as my tuck. Once again, I would quite like to put some gold on the edges. Doesn't need to be even. In fact, I don't want it to be even. I want it to be kind of rough that's in a good spot. So that is giving me another little tuck spot under there. I'm not going to put a lace pocket on this one. I'm just going to use an image. So I've already got that ready. I made a little bit of a gusset for the back just to give it a little bit more space. Let's go that way. Let's go that way. I think it goes that way. So we'll put that on. So I can actually seal this down. I want the opening to be in the top, so I'm going to glue it on this side and across the bottom. So now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pockets. This side, no reason at all why you couldn't put another pocket on there, but I'm not going to. I'll probably just do a little bit of collaging, put an image on the top there. So now we look at the front. I do like things that flap and flip. I'll stick those there just for reference. So I'm going to use one of the coin envelopes that come in the Chapter One kit. This coin envelope is going to sit inside that opening. So whatever you put on the front here, you actually need to have a seam on both sides. One seam will close the envelope up. The other seam is going to tuck in the side there. So I've already cut that out. I won't, have I inked the edges? I have inked the edges. All right, so let's just close it up. And because, sorry, you're wriggling a bit there. Because you can never have too much gold. So this will tuck under. I'll put it about there maybe. So I can glue this down now. The opening is on the left-hand side, so I'll be gluing it top and bottom. So that gives us 4 layers. And then pocket and a pocket on the left-hand side. So that's the making of the base. 2 pieces of paper, as long as your piece of paper is the height that you choose. Something to make a little pocket on the front, and that can either be a coin envelope, or you can just make an ordinary pocket by folding a piece of paper over. 1 or 2 pockets for this side. There is a pocket in the top. You'll need a strip to make a tuck there, something to make a tuck here, and you've got a pocket on the back. And then the rest is just decorating. And I would use what have I got? I don't know, pretty lady on the front with some labels or something, and then whatever papers you like to tuck in there. So that's the making of that folio. So it's quite easy, doesn't take a lot of paper, just make sure that they're double-sided, and really you can adjust those folds however you like. So the finished result gets a little bit of tweaking, something to put in all of the pockets. I do put, where is it? A tab. I'll put that tab on there. Let's do that now. Something to close it. And I usually use seam binding. So I'll put some seam binding through there. I would probably put something pretty on the front, put some lace on there. Might put something on here. Lost my little bit of, I had some extra lace, but that's all right. Let's quickly do the front. Work out which way it goes. So that will tie around, and then I'll find things to fill it with. So I hope that helps. I'll put the dimensions in the description, but it is quite variable, and then the fun part is just the decorating. So thanks for watching.